Hey guys, Drata Arcana here, back with another character build guide, this time for God of War Ragnarok. Now, it's been a while since I've done a character build on my channel, but I figured, now is a good time to actually start getting another character build out of the way. Now, this build is what I used on my the King of Horoth fight. Don't quote me on that pronunciation, and the Valkyrie. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so first off, we're going to talk about the Leviathan Axe. So we're using for the two runic attacks Nord's Tempest and Breath of Thalmor. Now, Thalmor is really good as an opener, but it's not something that you want to use for most of the fight. Nord's Tempest is really good for interrupting enemies, including in their yellow status. And I'm using the Grip of Radiant Reflection. Now, the Grip of Radiant Reflection says that it has precision momentum, so whenever we throw the axe, we gain permafrost. It comes with strength, runic, and cooldown, which is the big reason why we're running this. Next up, we're going to talk about the Draupnir Spear, which I'm using Thrust of 1,000 Soldiers, which is perhaps one of the better light runic attacks in the game. And we're using the Finger of Ruin, which actually locks a lot of bosses in a constant tornado, so they can't attack you while they're in the tornado. And we're going to be using Hind of Weightless Recovery. Now, the reason we're running this is to make sure that we get that defense stat and that luck stat bonus, which you'll see here in a moment why that is important. For the shield, we're running the Stonewall Shield. This is mostly to give us the ability to guard break Yellow Ring and be able to interrupt actually double blue rings with the shield slam. For the attachment, we're using the Rond of Disruption, which has a low luck chance to create an elemental storm when interrupting double blue ring attacks. This is probably one of the better ones because that elemental storm actually does a decent amount of damage. Next up, for our Spartan Rage, we're using Wrath. This just gives us the ability to use our Spartan Rage gauge as an interrupting attack. For the Relic, this is very important. We're using Hilt of Honford, which gives us that Realm Shift ability for about 6 seconds. Now, this is where most of our damage is going to be coming from. We're going to want to be using our Blades of Chaos. And the hilt we're using is Cursed Empress Handles. You get these very, very early on in the game. And honestly, I think they're one of the better handles in the game to start with and in the late game, because it gives you Power of the Empress, which says a low luck chance on any blades hit to grant an increase of strength and runic. Stacks up to 3 times. This is really good because you want to increase your damage as much as you can, and that's important. We're using the Rampage of the Furies and the Meteoric Slam. Once again, this is to keep interrupting on bosses. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the armor set. As far as the chest, we're using the Suture's Scorch Cuirass, which gives us strength, defense, and vitality. Kratos' attacks that hit enemies during their attacks do bonus damage. Don't underestimate this ability. Preemptive Strike is a very, very good ability when paired with Realm Shift, because it actually increases your damage significantly, and because enemies tend to attack a lot, this is probably one of the better abilities on an armor piece that we get. You can get this armor piece by doing the final challenges of Muspelheim. The wrist armor. Now, you can't get this until post game, but it's going to be called Berserker Gauntlets, which comes with Strength 77, Runic, Vitality, Cooldown, and Luck. And this is actually really important. Soulless Assault. Low luck chance for successful hits to cause soul explosion, dealing damage and restoring some cooldown of the relic. This is how you keep your relic time up, so that way you can continue the Realm Shift And that soul explosion is nothing to scoff at because it does do a pretty good amount of damage. Low luck chance is actually fairly frequent in this game. With 192 luck, we're almost guaranteed to always proc this. Waste armor. So we're also using the Suitor's Scorched Griddle. This is mostly to give us strength, defense, and vitality. But the other big reason why we want to use this is Kratos takes reduced damage and has increased stagger resistance during his basic attacks and skills. This way, you have a lot less opportunity to be interrupted during your blades attacks, and being interrupted kind of stinks. Also, if you're in the middle of your attack, you take reduced damage, so if you are going to get hit, at least the damage is reduced. Now, for the amulet, this is where most of our damage is going to come from. And this is what we're using. Emblem of the Nine Realms, which has increased melee damage during realm shifts. So every time we pop our relic, we're going to get increased melee damage. We're using Muspelheim set piece, which says increases Kratos' melee damage when the permafrost, emulation, or maelstrom skills are fully charged based on his runic. We're basically going to have this up almost all the time because it's really easy to build emulation through the Blades of Chaos. It builds up very fast. You don't need to increase its speed of generation just because basically you're almost always going to have it up. Next, we're running Niflheim's enchantment set. This is absolutely essential to the build because it increases our melee damage when we're above 75% health. Based on our defense, which we have a 352 defense, so this is a significant bonus. The only other two that we're running is Asgard's Virtue. This is merely stat stick. There's no other reason for it. It's just a stat stick. Just because it provides stats to 4 different attributes, so, you know, stat stick. Then we're running Regenerating Essence. This adds a small amount of constant health regeneration. It might not seem a lot, but the regeneration that you get from this can be a matter of life and death. It could be the difference of dying due to a burn effect, or it could be the difference between dying to poison to surviving, basically. So this is absolutely essential for the build. Outside of that, mostly what you're going to be doing is you're going to stay with the Blades of Chaos for the most part. As far as the skill tree goes, our Hyperion Pull has momentum, which increases the emulation charge gained from the skill. And Rushing Chaos, we're going to use damage. This is our main opening damage dealer. By sprinting at the enemy, we can basically R1. This hits like a truck, so it's a good way to drop those health bars as quickly as possible. Outside of that, the rest of the stuff doesn't really matter too much. I have it as Freezing Throw has damage, and Axe Throw has damage. So, outside of that, if you want to know my build for Freya or Atreus, as for the runic summon, I'm using Invokes the Storm. I probably will be switching over to Queen's Roar soon. As far as the accessory slot, I run Rune Engraved Release, which the first runic arrow from a full quiver deals significantly increased damage. Runic Recharge, killing an enemy with runic arrow immediately restores all runic. And this is actually the important one, Runic Capacity. When using a runic summon, instantly refill all runic arrows and empower them. Those are what I'm running on that. It doesn't really matter too much for that. Otherwise, guys, that is pretty much the build that I've been using. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll catch you next time as I show you guys some gameplay of what this build can do. Take care, everyone.